Hey everybody, I'm gonna try to avoid this uh, audio problem that I've had trying to do Facebook Live through Zoom the last couple of days. So I hope we've got that taken care of. And just wanted to say good morning and to share some insights I've had this week. And as you probably know, if you've been watching any of my Facebook Lives that just sort of show up, I record these live and then I use the audio for my podcast. This will be episode number 202 on my podcast, Circle Up and Get Real. And as always, you're welcome to share any insights that you have or any comments you'd like to share in the chat. I suppose it would be comments here. It's not really chat here. So here's what I've been thinking this week. By the way, first I got to start. I'm going to do the countdown so that it's easier to edit when I do that. But I always want these to feel very conversational, whether it's the podcast itself or these lives, because I really, really want to encourage you to join in. This is a really safe way to have conversations. The way I say it in my podcast, conversations that matter with people who matter. And if you're attracted to this in any way, then that's you. And I love that. So I'm going to do the countdown here, and then I'll watch on my phone here if there are any comments that you'd like to make. So 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 202 of Circle Up and Get Real. This week, I don't have a guest, but I'm inviting anybody who's watching this on Facebook Live where I'm recording it to be part of the conversation. And then we'll include your comments, your questions, whatever it is you want to share if you feel so moved. If not, as you all know, I don't have any problem talking for a long time. So this week, I've had a lot of insights and ahas. I've been reading a book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, which is taking me longer than normal to get through because I'm taking so many notes. And I'm really looking forward to getting together with a couple other people who are also reading this book in 3 weeks at our Chill Out event. We'll talk more about that. So that's one thing. I also have a couple of distinctions that have popped up for me that I'd like to share. So distinctions in ways of seeing things, 2 of those. And then also an aha I had about myself and why I've been frustrated recently. Because as we all know, anything that frustrates or upsets us is a gift because it causes me to look at why I'm frustrated. And I uncovered something that if you know me at all, you might already know this. So it's maybe not rocket science, but for me, it was a big deal. So here we go. The first one I want to talk about is interest and commitment. I'm seeing so much interest in so many things, which is so fantastic. I'm glad people are interested in things. They're interested in events, they're interested in conversations, they're interested in products and services. And that's awesome because it's piquing an interest. People are now looking at something different because they're interested. And what I'm recognizing about the distinction between being interested and committed, for me too, is they're not the same thing. So let's say there's an event on Facebook or Eventbrite or wherever you find events that you're like, oh, that sounds really good. I'm interested. And you'll hit that interested button on Facebook. Let's just use that, which is awesome because it means there's some interest. And what I used to do when I was younger, I've had events for years and years. And what I did when I was younger was I'd take that interested to be a committed. And then I'd say, oh my gosh, 50 people are interested. That means 50 people are coming to the event. No, that's not the same thing. And I've done it too. Hit interested because if nothing else comes along, I'll maybe take a look at it. So interest is doing what you want or doing what you can toward your goal or toward something you desire when it's easy. You'll do what it takes when it's easy or when nothing else comes along. And that's cool. But for people planning events or for people really wanting to make a difference in their lives, the commitment is the key. And commitment is doing what you say you will do. And I always add this piece without violating the rights of others, even when the emotion you set it in wears off. So it's so easy to get interested and excited about something, but not as easy to stay committed. I'm guilty too. There are a lot of things I wish would just happen and it would be easy. But when it gets difficult, I I also stop in some cases. And so I want to challenge myself to not hit the interested button unless I'm committed. And that's something I'm going to be working on for events and for just whatever it might be. I want to go all in when I decide. And that's another thing about decision, right? We're not good at decisions typically. And it's interesting to me because Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich wrote a whole chapter on decision as one of the principles of success. And if it's so important that it made his book, it must be because not everybody is good at it. And what I like to think of with deciding on something is going back to the root of the word, decide, to side. And side in this case, CIDE, means kill in a weird kind of way, but to kill off the other options. Pesticide, suicide, homicide, it means to kill off, to get rid of the other options and go all in. I have a friend who's just starting a new business, all in consulting. Shout out to Carrie, because it's about going all in. And if we don't go all in, then we're on a fence and we're wobbling back and forth. And eventually we're going to fall off that fence because it's not comfortable to stay on the fence. And if you think about the fence being yes on one side, no on the other side, you're going to fall off sometime anyway. So if you're interested, fall off on the side of yes, because you'll be able to experience whatever it is you decided on. If you say no, nothing will change, nothing will be different. So I know that's a bias I have. I would much rather try something and then adjust if I need to than to stay on the sideline and watch other people doing it. So interest and commitment, that's one distinction that's really kind of hitting me in the face these days. The other one is doing something by myself or doing something with others. And sometimes I get impatient. When I played basketball back a long time ago, I just did stuff. I was in the mindset when I was younger that you just go, you just do things. If you want to do something, then do it. I did a lot of solo traveling, solo excursions. I'd get an idea on a Friday and I'd say, well, tomorrow I'm going to go on a bike ride across Park Rapids, where we live in Minnesota, North Dakota. There's a really cool bike trail. And I just would go and I'd take day trips and I'd do a lot of things because it was um, easier for me to just do it than to find somebody else who might want to do it with me. While I prefer group things, I prefer to have other people to do things with. I don't want that to keep me from doing the things I really want to do. When I turned 30, I went on a solo trip to Florida and I didn't tell anybody where I was going. I planned it for myself for my 30th birthday. That was the most fun, no offense to anybody I've traveled with before, but that was such a fun trip because I had nobody else to worry about. That was before I had a GPS. So I traveled I rented a convertible and I got lost all the time because really have a poor sense of direction, but nobody cared. I didn't have to feel that I had to do it right. And so I'd get lost and I'd drive another place and I'd turn around and it was just so much fun. And I met Shaquille O'Neal at a Orlando Magic basketball game. I met people who were also traveling solo, and I met people from North Dakota in Florida. I would never have been able to do that if I had only sat in North Dakota and wished I could go to Florida. I just did it. And so if you're like me, and I've been kind of aware of this lately, if you're waiting for someone else's permission or someone else's invitation to do something your heart is really calling you to do, take a look at that and see whether going first is worth it to you. Because if you decide to go first, in my experience, there will be others who will join you at some point. And the cooler part about that is if you go first, there are probably people who have also done something similar who you can follow, who you can find. So it's almost like taking a walk on a hiking trail and going first by yourself, but recognizing at some point there are people further along the trail than you. And if you walk just a little bit faster, you might be able to catch up to them and learn from them and have a conversation with them. I have a friend, Sandy, who went on the Camino, the walk I think she was in Spain. I think it was Spain and France. Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but that was a solo journey. but she met a lot of people along the way because they had a shared interest. And that to me is really important. I get that I am all about connection. I mean, that's my third point I wanted to make. Knowing self, knowing myself. When I look back on my life, the times that I've been most frustrated or upset or have felt something's missing, it's because I crave connection so much. I crave conversations that will challenge and support me instead of those that cause me to feel that I need to tone it down. And so being who I'm being and letting my light shine, even though it may hurt people's eyes, is the point I'm at right now. And I used to try so hard to be what I thought other people wanted me to be because I craved connection so much. And I still do. But what's changing for me as I get older, and maybe it's older and wiser, is that if I'm shaving off my square corners to fit into other people's round holes, then they're never really connecting with me anyway, because they're connecting with the version of me that I thought they wanted to connect with. And that has cost me relationships over my life. It has cost me career opportunities. Although I will say, career opportunities that I said yes to, even if they turned out not to be long lasting, I would choose that 100 times over standing on the shore and watching the ships go out because it wasn't exactly perfect. So I've learned a lot by saying yes and then being asked to leave several organizations and opportunities. I look at myself and say, what could I have done differently? What might have caused the relationship or the connection to remain and grow together? But maybe there was something that just wasn't for a lifetime. It was for a moment. And in those connections that can be made, even if for a moment or a year or a couple of years, I can look back on those now and say, I would have regretted much more if I hadn't taken that chance than that I did, and it didn't last. It's difficult sometimes when what you crave is connecting with other people, and then those people don't want to be with you anymore. That's painful, and it would also have been worse if I hadn't taken the chance. So those are the things I wanted to share today. Awarenesses I've had, um, inspirations maybe that have come to me when I've been quiet and I journal, um, listening to different programs on the radio or podcasts or things like that that really cause me to think in a different way have allowed me to help clients I'm working with build critical thinking skills. I came across my friend Mark, put me in touch with a little 4.5 minute video yesterday about critical thinking skills and how it's so easy to jump on board with some idea you think supports you and then get it all in on that and then be closed to any other possibility. So there's this dichotomy of awarenesses that can happen. If I go all in on something and then I close my mind to anything else, then I become someone who is only rallying for one side of this multifaceted life we live. And so I'm learning about me too, that the middle is much more attractive to me than the sides. Take that politically, take that religiously, take that however you want to. Because I crave connection so much, I'm much more interested in having conversations that bring people together than those that would separate them. And I just see it. I see the vision of it. I see down the road of that. I see what can happen in our families and our communities and our counties and our states and our world, really. I see what can happen when people start listening instead of only feeling they have to talk. I've learned so much by shutting my mouth. Obviously, this is a different venue. In a podcast, if I just sat here and shut my mouth, you wouldn't have anything to listen to. I love that there are a couple people watching live here. If you feel so moved to add a comment, I'm happy to address it, anybody, because obviously it's much more fun for me to have a conversation and a dialogue than to always only have a monologue. But those are just things I'm thinking of. And I guess I'm most keen on this week because I have an event coming up the end of the month that I seem to be running into roadblocks in trying to share it with people. There's a lot of interest, and I must be not sharing it in a way that has people make a commitment. I don't know if it's money or time or what the reason is that people are choosing not to say yes. It's not to say that this is for everybody, but if there is so much interest and so little commitment, I'm wondering what that gap is. And I'd love to know more. I'd love to know what it is. It feels sometimes like people are afraid to say no to me. And oh my goodness, please say no. Please just say no. I'm so grateful to those people who I've invited to this event and they've said, "Oh my gosh, I would love to be there, but I'm going to be in Antarctica." I mean, pretty good reason not to come. I'm taking my mom to Arizona. I will be gone. I would love to come. I'm having my own event at the same time. Completely get that. It means I'm going to keep inviting you because you are someone I really value and treasure and would love to introduce to other people who are coming. That's why I keep not, does it feel like harping? I don't want to harp on this. I just know who will be there. And I know the amazing humans who are there. And I also know the humans I'm inviting who haven't said yes yet. I know. Oh, it's just like I feel it in my gut and heart that if you were in the same room, boom, sparks would fly. I don't know what would come of it down the road, but last year's event, I recognize how many connections were made that have lasted this whole year, where people have actually added a human to their inner circle because they were at this event last year. So I don't know how to share that better. It's the event's called Chill Out, and we had it last year as an experiment, and it went well and we had a desire to have it again. And now that we're getting to the point where people have to make the commitment, that's where there is a gap. Oh, yes, it sounds great, but it sounds great, but what is the but? I want to know what is the but? What is preventing anyone from stepping in, going all in, having that experience? The worst thing that can happen is you're out some time, which I can't give you back. I can't. You have to make commitment to the time. And you would be out some money, some cash. I'm out cash if I give you your cash back because I have to pay. I have to pay for the event. But I want to make it as affordable and as possible as it could be for anybody coming. I've got presenters coming from all over the United States, right here to Fargo, right here to my hometown. They're coming to my hometown. And I have people in my hometown who I really want to introduce. And people are saying, yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, what is the gap? Please help me understand what is the gap because I will make that gap as narrow as I can for you if this is something that will move you from interest to commitment. Now, this is just one example, this event. It's not for everybody. It's not meant to be for everybody. But think in your own life. What is it that you say you're interested in and you haven't yet made a commitment? Whatever it is, whatever. Health, finances, relationships, career, pick an area. What is it? What is that gap? Let's see if we can narrow that gap for you so that you have experiences that you can look back on and say, boy, I would have regretted if I didn't do it, even though it didn't turn out the way I hoped it would. I can look back on my career and say that all the time. I don't think there's anything I've done or said yes to that I regret having said yes to, even if it didn't work out, even if it didn't last. I'm so glad I said yes. So, recap, interest versus commitment. Interest, I'll do what it takes when it's easy. Commitment, I'll do what it takes even when the emotion I set it in wears off. That was my first distinction. Solo versus together. For me, I don't want um, the hope that someone else will want to do what I want to do and then not find anybody to prevent me from doing the things I really want to do, even if it means I do them on my own, because I'll always meet somebody on the path. And then knowing myself well enough to know that what I crave more than anything is connection. And not just for me, but seeing people connect, which is why I'm talking about this event because I see it as a possibility. So anybody who is interested in Chill Out, please go take a look. And if it calls to you and speaks to you, register. Register. I added a 2-for-1 deal today. So bring your friend. You can go 2 for 1. There's no reason to let money be the the thing that holds you back. Be in that room the end of February, February 28th, 29th, and March 1st. If it's not that event, please know that it's not for everybody. I totally get that. But find something that fills you up, that makes your heart sing. Because in my opinion, what the world needs more of right now is singing hearts. Today in Fargo, it's Giving Hearts Day, which is a day every year that all of our nonprofit organizations get together and there are matching opportunities. It's such a beautiful day in my hometown where people get together and give of their hearts to causes and organizations that make their hearts sing. So great on us for doing that for everybody else. What are you doing for yourself? Remember you in your giving and give to yourself as well, wherever that shows up in your life. Whenever you're listening to this podcast interview, or I'm sorry, this episode, there's no interview. I guess I'm talking to myself. But if you're listening to this in 2025, if you're listening to this whenever, remember that point. Do not forget yourself in your giving. Give to yourself also. So with that, everybody, thanks for those of you who are watching live. And as always, just go get real and see what happens. Thanks, everybody. See you again.